want to make a reference to page number 479, table 207, income statement for the year ended 2012. You notice that IGF, which is internally generated funds, certainly between 2012 and 2011, there was an increase of about 77.2%. Now, if you come down and you look at the item under expenditure, which is personal emoluments, you also see a huge increase between 2011 and 2012. I think that the percentage difference is 128.3%. I would want to understand why there has been such a monumental increase in terms of expenses to do with personal emoluments.
You will recall that the government of Ghana introduced a policy on salaries, popularly known as the single spine. The office was affected by the single spine. So this quantum jump was as a result.
Positive?
Yes.
Affected positively?
Yes.
Okay.
The office was affected by the single spine implementation, which accounted for the quantum jump.
It's your definition of land refers to what we know in economics, which combines water bodies and mineral resources. I don't know. Or is it just two lands so that the fiscal land that we need?
Two lands, surface land, and things that underneath. That includes minerals.
Yes, now you're talking, because that's what I wanted to be addressed. But water bodies are excluded.
Anyway, what's your source of funding? Obviously, there's GOG funding. Aside GOG funding, what else?
The 10% administrative charges, which we are calling IGF.
Do you get donor funding?
When there is a project.
Okay, that brings me to an issue raised in the report. An amount of 170,254 was expended. Now, what happened to the difference in donor receipts?
If I get the question clear, donor lap, 637,473.73. Is that what Honorable Member is referring to?
Very much so, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, that is a donor funding. It's a donor fund. It was an expense.
Okay. Now, how much of it was expended, and what happened to the difference?
467 was expended, which was even a little bit more than what came in. Lap.
How much came in?
Beg your pardon. 467, 219.29 was expended. We actually spent less than what.
That's what I'm asking. What happened to the difference, the variance?
The variance should reflect in the account. These are expenses that are tied to activities strictly.
Have you returned it back to the donors if it hadn't been?
No, it's an ongoing project.
May I humbly refer the auditees and the committee to paragraph 2026 at page 480. And with your permission, I read. Current assets which comprise of staff debtors and cash at bank increased by 468.3% from 229,325.32 in 2011 to 1,303,159.52 in 2012. I would like to know the policy they have on this staff debtors, how much money had been given to the staff as advances or as loans, and if these have been paid?
The components of this amount is said that staff debtors component is very wee, very small. The bulk of the cash at bank came from last-minute payment from mineral royalties, which happens to be one of our income sources. Mineral royalties came very late in the year. It was, I think, 28th of the month of December or so. But the staff debt was very small, and I must say that they have all been recovered.
Mr. Chairman, can we have evidence of that? Because it has been captured as staff debtors. As to whether we don't, she is saying it is very small. How small, we don't know. And if indeed they have been paid, where is the evidence?
Mr. Chair, we will liaise with the auditor so that they can separate the staff debt from other revenue in there. Then we'll be able to account for the staff debts components. But I must say that these are very minimal payments that were made, and they are recovered through the controller and accountant general system at source.
Madam, do you prepare your financial statement annually?
Yes, we do.
In that financial statement, you don't have the breakdown of what constitutes your current assets, where you have the number of staff who are owing the office, and you are asking the Auditor General to do that. You should have that data because it's your account which was audited. So you should provide that information to us.
Yes, we have something here that we can.
Okay, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the staff debtors, for the year in question, that is 2012, what was given out was 55,850. Then the refund for the year amounted to 30,917.73. So with a balance that was brought forward of about 28,000, the loan debtors for the year, and it's captured in the income statement on the balance sheet as 53,684.37.
53 as a total?
Yes, the total staff debtors.
Staff debtors.
That is correct.
Now, what is your policy on giving out loan to staff?
The policy is 24 months. Loan is payable within 24 months.
Any amount, or there's a limit?
There is a limit.
And what is the limit?
Between then 1,500 to 2,500 cedis, depending on the grade of the officer. 1,500 to 2,500 cedis.
Payable within 24 months.
24 months.
Mr. Accountant, if we could go to page 479 on the same table, table 207. If you look at 2012, where we have the expenditure, administration, there's nothing over there. And also service activity, there's nothing over there. And if you go down to 2011, use of goods and services, nothing was there for 2011. How do you explain that?
I think it was to do with the policy that came. From 2012 going, the goods and services were boxed together. Yes, what I mean is, previously it was administration and services, but for the year 2012, they boxed it together. So for us to do the comparison, that is why the 2011 figure is still standing there as administration. Then for 2012, it is now use of goods and services. So if you want to compare, you add the 2 as against the 3037.
There is probably revenue seepage, because if you do not have a registry of all stool lands and know that the total acreage of stool lands in the country is this amount of acres, then it means if a stool sells land and does not officially report it to you and give you your 10%, that is revenue seepage. Is that not correct?
It's not correct. We explained earlier on that we don't take revenue from sale of stool lands. Secondly, the stool land owners, I must say that most of them don't have plans over their lands. They are not able to indicate the sizes of their own lands, which means that it's difficult for us to have a full list of total stool lands in this country. Even the owners themselves don't have it. They should have it and they should supply it to us.
Unfortunately, Administrator, I disagree with you. I disagree that the responsibility rests with the owners of the stool land to have a registry and then submit to you. As the administrator and as a government agency, the right process will be that you should have the full registry, and then they can come to you. And in the case of disputes over stool lands, where stool lands are in dispute, then you, based on your own registry and your asset registry, can be able to determine that these are boundaries and these are not boundaries. So I would suggest that if there's going to be a continuation of the LAP project or any other donor funding, you should begin to look at building a national registry of stool lands. It should not be a bad thing to do by the Administrator of Stool Lands.
And as you indicated, the attempt was made under the project to demarcate customary boundaries, but that has its own story.
So does it mean that the LAP, which is the land administration project, is a failure?
Mr. Chairman, the LAP is by no means a failure. It's achieved quite a lot, but we should bear in mind that the land ownership regime within the country is quite a complex one. And because it is very complex, you need to take your time to be able to actually look at the interest regime in lands in the country. The hierarchy of interest we have, apart from the stools, are also clan and family lands. And some of them interface with stool lands. There are some stools in Ghana which actually do not own any lands at all. And a directory will have to distinguish between the jurisdictional interests of the stools and actually their proprietary interests also. What the Office of Administrator of Stool Lands does is that those with proprietary interests and who have transactions on them are what they record and disburse. As part of the LAP process, we have attempted to demarcate as many of the stool land boundaries to be able to ascertain how much they have. In addition, we've been trying to ascertain what type of customary rights are in those lands. It has been a very difficult process for us because of the lack of defined boundaries for most of the chiefs. They intersect in so many areas that most of them end up in courts, and we don't get the full list. I mean, a definition of the entire boundaries by the time unless the cases are completed. And even when the cases are completed, in some cases, appeals are made and we still have to wait. So it takes a bit of time to do that. But we are in the process of actually doing as much compilation as we can of the different types of stool land boundaries and interests that are okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Do you foresee a day where we'll be free from these challenges?
I am positive we will see those challenges, but maybe not in our lifetime.
It's a follow-up. Please, when did you start lab? And what was the planned duration of the lab?
For the land administration project actually was conceived as far back as 1999 when the National Land Policy was approved. And the main aim was government wanted to see how we could facilitate access to land, ensure security of tenure, and the various administrative regimes that protect land for them to be streamlined. Also, we aimed at improving the technological base of land administration by way of providing maps so that the special information that was needed will be done. As part of the administrative processes, we tried as much as possible to improve upon the legal regime affecting land. So a lot of support was given to the judiciary. Currently, the judiciary has been supported to establish land courts. And the land courts at the moment in the country, we have 12 in Accra and 3 in Sekondi Takoradi, Kumasi, and also Tamale, to help with adjudication of land cases. A very major thing that was done as part of the support to the judiciary was to help the judiciary to improve its own court rules. So the project supported the judiciary to refine the court rules, and it has been so successful that land cases which used to last between 3 and 7 years in the courts now take an average of just about 10 months. But because it is not situated within land and it's within the judiciary, people do not see that. We also, all the street naming you see in Accra, which are actually geo-referenced, was sponsored by the lab. This was to provide an avenue for improved revenue generation from land-related revenues for the district assemblies. Lab sponsored that. Currently, we have about 88 customary land secretariats across the country. We did this with a view to help the owners of land themselves appreciate their ability to appreciate the value of the land that they hold, and try to bring a form of recording that can help them achieve a higher and better use for their lands. But the Constitution guarantees the ownership of land in the traditional authorities. What we can just do is to collaborate with them to try to improve their tenure regime. Another thing that we have tried to do is the entire country, in terms of mapping, covers just about 25,000 out of the entire 238,000 square kilometers that the country owns. We have only 25,000. So we need a national policy really to map the whole country. We have also supported them now for the institution of the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, even though it is something under the Ministry of Environment and Science and at the district level under the Ministry of Local Government. All the establishment of that and supporting them to do their work has come from the lab process. So at the moment, the National Spatial Development Framework, which was designed, was done with funds from lab. And this is what currently the NDPC is using as the basis for the 40-year development plan that was envisaged. So in terms of work, the lab has done quite a bit, but there is still more for us to do. The first phase started from 2003 and ended in 2011. And since 2011, we've started the second phase, which will be ending in February next year. We're hoping that if the trajectory with which we are working can still be supported, we can do a third phase. The original idea was that it should take us about 25 years for us to be able to see the level of conformity with rational land management and planning. So we've only done 13 years. We just think we need some more time and some more resources for the ministry to achieve what it intends doing.
I get the impression that you have been trying a lot, setting up a lot of offices, but the main things that you want to achieve, what percentages are you talking about? What are you have gone half of the time that you set yourself. Would you say that you have achieved, for instance, let's take the case of mapping lands. What percentage have you achieved?
The amount of funding determines the speed with which we will go. Mapping is quite a bit expensive. We've done 25,000 acres within 25,000 square kilometers of the country, mainly the northern sector to support the Ghana Commercial Agricultural Program, and then the whole of the greater Accra areas are those which we have covered so far. But most of the country, we depend on the old topo maps, and therefore sometimes we have challenges with accuracy of plans that are used for land documentation. It is a bit difficult to give percentages because it's mostly focused on creating the right structures for them to work. And I think that we've done quite a bit. We've been a little bit weak with regard to the speed with which to produce land titling. And I think currently measures are being taken to ensure that land titling is completed within 30 working days.
Well, like there's two land school fund or whatever, and there are disputes. I'm sure you don't give the money. So what do you do with the money? The money for that is supposed to go to the stool lands, and especially the stool lands, and there are usually disputes over ownership. So what do you do with those money that you're supposed to give them?
Mr. Chairman, the revenue is for the stool, not for individuals. So the traditional authorities receive the payment on behalf of the stools. If there are litigations, they determine who is the rightful person sitting on the stool. But what is important is that the payment is to the stools, not to individuals. Where they are very uncertain, if I advise from they themselves, we retain the monies.
These disputes take 10 years, 20 years. My question is, so what do you do with those monies? Where you have to retain them?
They sit in the account.
The account of your office as the Administrator of Stool Lands?
Come again, sir.
The money sits in your account as the office of the Administrator of Stool Lands?
Yes.
And no plan for managing the fund to grow the fund or to protect the value of the fund?
We have been consulting the Controller and Accountant General in that area.
So the balance you have?
We don't have the mandate to invest those funds.
Yeah, so the balance you have in your account as of 2012, the 1.3 million, is there a portion that represents those funds that you have withheld?
Possible.
No, I want definite answer.
Is there any particular?
Mr. Chairman, we have to draw the distinction.
Use a mic. It's not on.
We have to draw the distinction between the disbursable account and the administrative charges account. The financial statement is prepared based on the administrative charges. For the disbursable, it is really not for the office. It is for the beneficiaries. So those amounts that are retained in the disbursable account, it is not part of the administrative charges.
So you have a separate account for that?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And you don't disclose that to the auditors when they come around?
Oh, we do.
Why didn't they report on that?
That is for the auditors to tell. We tell them. Because when they come...
So can you tell us now, currently, by December 2016, how much is the money in that account?
In which account, please? The disbursable.
The disbursable.
Mr. Chairman, it is scattered, it is on regional basis. So not until we do a collation of all the regions, we're not...
As the office, which is the headquarters,
yes, please.
You have to, at the end of every year, get all those things into one. So that at any point in time, you know that this is a total disbursable amount which you are holding in trust for the stools.
Yes, Chairman.
You don't leave it around in the region.
We do. We compile it annually. We do.
So we want to know, that's the work for you, we want to know how much was the balance as of December 2012, so that we will know that, and then we need only 2012 one. The rest, when the auditors come around, please disclose this information to them so that they can capture in account as a memorandum figure to tell us that this is the money you are holding in trust for the stools.
Well taken, Mr. Chairman.
These, let me see, monies that you are holding in trust at the various offices. Who are the, let me say, the signatories to those accounts?
The signatories are the Administrator of Stool Lands or the representative who is the regional stool land officer and the accountant. These are our ledger accounts. They are not the stools accounts.
Yeah, what's the difference? I'm talking about monies that should have been disbursed to stool land owners, and
yes,
for one reason or other, you are holding it because there's a dispute. Those are the monies I'm talking about.
All the accounts are operated by the office, the Administrator of Stool Land, and the accountant in charge in the various regions and at the headquarters.
Are you sure these monies are protected? Some of these disputes goes on for a long time, and maybe somebody is even using the money for something else, because maybe for 10 years the dispute will be going on, and it appears that the head office is not too much in control. So my worry is that supposing I ask you now to furnish me the list of beneficiaries or potential beneficiaries of all those amounts, and how much, would you be able to do that?
Mr. Chairman, we provide 2 statements of accounts yearly to our beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries and ourselves, they know how much they have in their accounts. And
beneficiaries who are in dispute?
Whether in dispute or not.
So how do you know who should get that information? Because they are disputing.
Disputes are determined by the courts, not us.
Supposing there are 3 families disputing a piece of land, whom do you provide the information you are talking about every year?
In fact, we don't deal with families. We deal with the stool. So we supply the information to the stool. Normally, the stools operate within the traditional councils. And by law, our payments are through the traditional councils. So the statements of accounts are issued and submitted to the traditional councils.
you said that you are not allowed to invest those monies. Is it your law that prevents you? Is this strictly stated that you cannot reverse those monies on behalf of this, or you think that you were not asked to, so that means you are not allowed?
The truth is that the office does not deal with chiefs. We deal with through the traditional council, which is headed by the registrar. So whichever money that comes to our office, we disperse to the registrar. In effect, we don't keep money in the account if we are not asked to do that by the law court. It is only when there is an injunction by the law court that we should not disperse because there is dispute in that particular place. That is where we don't disperse. And if the law court gives that statement, then it behoves on the law court to tell us what we should use the money for. But if that statement has not come or that direction has not come, we keep the money in the account. And if it's for 10 years, the dispute continues, well, that is the price the people have to pay for going into dispute. That is the position of the office.
Upper West Region is not among the number of stool lands that the government or your office are in charge of. Can you just give us an explanation and a reason on that?
Mr. Chair, from our interaction with the traditional authorities, our understanding is that most of the lands in the Upper West region are not skin lands. That is the information provided to us.
That is true in some cases. I don't want to preempt. But can you tell us in what form did you register these two lands, and that would exclude those skin lands you talk of? I will exclude Upper West from it.
Mr. Chairman, we don't register stool lands. The information on stool and skin lands are provided by the stools and the skins themselves. So in the case of the Upper West region, from the Regional House of Chiefs, we did not get any explicit skin lands. There may be pockets of them, but they were not provided. We don't actually know them.
So did you make any effort to know? It is not possible that in Upper West, they are not the stool land. Did you make an effort to find out they are equally chiefs, paramount chiefs, traditional rulers cut across? So you can't say that the whole Upper West, there's no land on this too.
From the work we do, we distinguish between jurisdictional interests of the paramountcies and their proprietary interests in land. Now, the character of the Upper West is such that it is the clans and the families and the various Tindamba who have proprietary ownership of the lands. The paramount chiefs will have jurisdiction over the area, but it does not translate into proprietary ownership of the lands. So that is the position we have.
In the same vein, here, generally in Ghana, lands are owned by clans and families, isn't it?
We cannot determine your custom. In many of the country, in many of the areas where stool or skin lands are, where there is a unity between the proprietary ownership and the jurisdictional ownership, we own it. So we recognize that. So for instance, when you look at the northern region, the three big stools of Dagbon, Mampurugu, Gonja, and Nanum you tend to see that the proprietary and the jurisdictional ownerships are vested in the paramount chiefs. It's not like that in the Upper West. In the Upper East, we have in some areas some limited number of skins who have the united proprietary as well as jurisdictional ownership, and even it doesn't cover the whole of Upper East region. So that is the distinction we have in the distance. But if there is evidence that there is a unity between the jurisdictional ownership and the proprietary ownership, we will take it into account. But at the moment, we don't have that evidence. In any traditional area, you may have a chief who, a sort of an adjudicator over the entire area. Customarily, all the peoples within the area recognize him as such, as their overlord. This gives him the basis of his authority. In terms of the relationship with land, where he is the sole authority who can determine what happens on land, we will say that there is a unity in the jurisdictional ownership and the proprietary ownership. In some areas, the chief has no say in what is done or in what is done on the land or what it is used for or who controls how the land is used. In that case, we will say that the clan or the family which is in charge of that has the proprietary ownership. So in terms of the authority to be able to make grants of that land, if it is in the clan, then we will say it has proprietary authority.